Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining the Think Realty podcast. Your host and founder, Eddie Wilson here, and I'm super excited for you to join us today. We've got a great person as well as a product that we want to talk to you about today that we think could help you a lot in your real estate investing journey. But before we jump into that, I want to say a quick thank you to Residential Assisted Living Academy. This podcast is brought to you by Residential Assisted Living Academy. Residential Assisted Living Academy introduces you to a lucrative opportunity that can yield $10,000 a month net in cash flow for you as well as those who you are survived. Learn more at www.ral101.com. That's ral101.com. Let's jump into our guest today. His name is Joseph Woodbury. Joseph, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, very good. Glad you're here. And we were just talking, you're based out of Salt Lake City, and the company that you represent is neighbor.com. If you don't mind, just give us a brief overview of neighbor.com, kind of help real estate investors that are sitting here listening or watching the podcast understand how it can help them in their investing journey.
Yeah, so neighbor.com is a nationwide self-storage marketplace. We allow individuals with excess space to rent that out for storage, whether that's some space on the side of a home, an RV pad, or a garage, or space inside a small business. Any sort of unused space, we can take it and rent it out. We're the only storage provider in the world operating in all 50 states at this point. As far as real estate investors, a lot of small real estate investors own 10, 15 properties, and their yield is kind of capped on those properties. They can maybe increase rents once a year, but other than that, yield's capped. You take a property where maybe your mortgage is $2,000 a month, and you earn $2,300 a month in rent, your net there is $300 a month. So we've seen a lot of real estate investors come along and double or even triple their net on every single property just by working with Neighbor to rent out the excess space. We also have large commercial real estate owners doing very similar things. We work with most of the billion-dollar retail REITs. We work with the largest multifamily owner in the country. They'll have space. We go to them and say, the 10% of your spaces nationwide that you haven't gotten a renter in or a tenant in 5 years, give those to us. We'll have them fully occupied. All that parking the city made you build that sits in the back and no one ever uses it, it's your multifamily place or your small business, give that to us. We'll rent it out for long-term vehicle storage. And a lot of these guys are earning hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year in ancillary income on our platform.
That's awesome. I love it. And I think that you guys have kind of coined the phrase full property monetization. It's about looking at the monetization of your property, not just with a tenant, but also every piece of unused space and looking to see what that value is. Where did this idea come from? Because it's a brilliant idea. And I own 4,000 plus real estate doors myself. And, hearing about that, it gets super exciting, right? Like, oh, I can find untapped potential in my back lot of my apartment complex, sitting there completely unused. How did you come up with this idea?
Well, it was honestly just from having the need. My co-founder is the one that came up with the idea, and he and his wife had just gotten married, and they were flying down to South America to work for a humanitarian org and needed storage for the 4 months they'd be down there. Looked into getting a storage unit. All the storage facilities in his city were totally booked, which is pretty common. A nationwide average is 95% occupancy. And he was going to have to pay $300 or $400 a month for this unit. He called a friend who let him store in his garage. And when he got back, as he's picking his items up 4 months later, he just thought, this was such a better experience. I felt so much more peace of mind knowing my items were in a nice, clean garage.
Sure.
Plus, I saved a ton of money. There's got to be empty space in every neighborhood in the country. Why isn't there like a directory or a marketplace? Why has no one built this before?
Right.
So we really started in that residential space, kind of Airbnb model. And it just turns out there's lots of space everywhere. And so we've branched out into the small real estate investor group, then into the SMB group. And then most recently, with a lot of the declines in commercial real estate, we've pushed really hard into the large commercial real estate side as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's super fascinating because it's like you don't realize all this untapped potential. And it just dawned on me. I own a ton of real estate. I own a coffee company that has multiple, places, and behind our buildings. Like there's essentially all this unused space. So how can they find, I mean, it's obviously like a listings platform. And so they come onto the listings platform and they began to, do they set their own rates? Do you give them suggested rates? How do they know what type of rent to charge for these unused spaces?
Yeah, and that's part of the advantage of we have active users in almost every city and every state in the country now.
Mhm.
And so we have the best pricing data of any storage company out there. Most hosts have no idea what to set their prices at. You are free to set whatever price you'd like on our platform. We don't dictate that. So if you think you can earn a certain price, you can set that.
Mhm.
But we will provide you with a recommended price. And the thing will say you're 95% more likely to get reserved if you use that price. In addition, a lot of our hosts, actually most of our hosts, sign up for a program we call smart pricing, where you actually give us control over the price, and we'll make sure you're maximally occupied and earning the most money possible. And we really try to be a full service platform. We don't just manage getting your thing filled and payments, but all communication between host and renter. We actually manage full, like any sort of post reservation or eviction process.
Mhm.
That's all on us. You will always get paid while there's items in your space. So even if the renter stops paying us, we'll continue paying you. It's really just like a full service platform. We
Wow.
provide $1 million guarantee to the host, and we're the only storage platform in the country that will give up to $50,000 in coverage to the renter. So
Wow.
it's everything.
So you're covering also the insurance portion of this as well, so that the actual renter, their goods, their items are actually made whole if there's something that happens there. That's fascinating. So they can come onto your website, which is neighbor.com, and they can essentially look for opportunities in that area that they serve. And you said you're in all 50 states, so
Yep.
there's at least comparable pricing. Wow, that's amazing. And I can imagine, obviously our whole audience are real estate investors. These are people that have buy and hold properties. And so this has to be super fascinating to them, because to be able to add to their net income on all these properties would be huge for them.
Cool.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've actually had, we'll work with a small real estate investor and they'll start using us on, 5 of the 10 properties they own.
Mhm.
Many of them, they get addicted to this income and they'll start buying properties solely for neighbor.
Sure.
We're based out of Salt Lake City here. So to take a Salt Lake City example, if you were to deploy $500,000, that buys you a townhome, roughly. And you could earn somewhere between 25 to 30K in rents off of that property on an annual basis. If you did short-term rental, you could maybe earn 40K through Airbnb or other platform. That same $500,000, if you were to go out and buy an empty vacant lot, that would get you about an acre and a half, maybe 2 acres, and you could earn $100,000 on that lot. So double, triple the yield on the exact same capital outlay investment. So we'll get these real estate investors. They start out just using us for ancillary, and then they move into full, like just investing in properties for neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that makes total sense. How do you monetize it? Do you just take a percentage of the management fee? Is there like a management fee built into that?
Yeah. So when you set your price as a host, you're going to get whatever you set the price at. The only thing we take from the host is a processing fee, essentially for the payment processing.
Okay.
And then we earn from the renter. We'll attach a service fee on top of that. And then we provide that $1 million insurance guarantee. That's all covered to our hosts. But on the renter side, the up to $50,000 in protection, renters can opt into that. So that's a purchase the renter makes. So we make money there if they
Sure.
decide to opt into that
That's
property
great.
protection. And our renters don't hardly notice our service fee
Sure.
because our spaces tend to be 30 to 50% cheaper than market. And so they're already getting like massive savings. And so that delta, and they're still getting cheaper than anything they could find in the storage industry.
And that kind of was my last question, is it incomparable pricing to a traditional storage unit? Do you find that most of what you're putting into the marketplace is less than these storage units?
Yeah, and there's good reason for that. If you're going to go build a storage facility, that requires a big upfront investment.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our hosts, this is space that's sitting unmonetized.
Sure.
So any additional income on this space increases yields. And so we can really advantage ourselves in the marketplace by getting space everywhere, including cities where storage facilities can't even justify building.
Mm-hmm.
We can go into and earn, just always maintain very high occupancy rates. And you don't have to be that much cheaper than market. Someone that's $20 cheaper than market per month, the renters just love that.
Sure. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that our listening audience is going to be very, very excited about this if they don't already know about it. So make sure if you're listening to go to neighbor.com and listen to this podcast, but then take action on it, right? Don't just think about, wow, I could earn this additional income. Let's go find ways to get more income out of the properties you already have. I love that concept of full property monetization. Joseph, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. They just go to neighbor.com and that's where they find everything?
Neighbor.com tried to make it as easy as possible, and then we're the number one ranked self-storage app on the App Store. So Google or Apple, you just go search storage or RV storage or Neighbor, and we'll pop up first if you like the mobile app.
Very good. Thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. One more quick thank you to our podcast sponsor. Our podcast is brought to you by Residential Assisted Living. Residential Assisted Living Academy introduces you to a lucrative opportunity that can yield $10,000 per month net cash flow for you as well as those who you are survived. Learn more at www.ral101.com, ral101.com. Man, maybe you could earn more than $10,000 if you also use this property with neighbor.com and get the additional space rented. Fantastic opportunity. If you weren't listening today, you missed out, and definitely go take advantage of that. I'm going to. This is brand new information to me. You guys know me, I own over 4,000 units. I'm going to check this out. Sounds amazing. And to find, another 10 or 20 or 30% net would be huge for me. Not only would it be huge for me from a cash flow perspective, but from a valuation perspective. If you're in the real estate game, what you're playing for is trying to increase your nets so that the valuation on your property is even more advantageous. That way, when massive REITs or big groups are out there buying in large swaths, you position yourself with that positive cash flow to create a higher valuation than traditionally selling your real estate on the retail marketplace. This would be a great way for you to do that. So awesome podcast today. Also want to make sure that I draw your attention to our events. If you haven't already signed up for our upcoming events for 2024, go to thinkrealty.com and you can always use the keyword podcast and we'll give you a buy one, get one free to all of our events. We have thousands of people that attend our events, and they're a huge opportunity for you to see all types of real estate investing, find out new ways to invest, education on investing, investment opportunities, and tons of vendors to support you along your investing journey. And so make sure you're signing up for that. And if you haven't already received our magazine to your doorstep, go grab it on the shelves of Barnes & Noble or sign up to have it come to your door. And make sure you're following us on all the social channels. Let us know what you think. Give us some feedback on the podcast and all the content that we put out each and every day. Thanks so much for joining us. Keep in touch, and we look forward to seeing you soon.